Well, howdy there, folks. Thanks for joining in. I'm starting a new project today that is a little bit different from the other things I've been working on. And I got to read through some of this documentation here. And then, try to cobble together a project if we can and see what we can get done. I'm not sure. Some of this might be kind of more of a planning episode. I'm not sure how much realistically that I will get done I haven't really delved into this yet. So without further ado, I'm calling this thing Coinsolidate. That might get changed. I was more being a little bit funny, but essentially it integrates with -join.js and should just be a very simple UI that will let you use the CoinJoin functionality that is built into Dash. So let's see. I've already got a repository prepped that I can commit to, and I just did a little bit of the initial size that. Yeah, that's about max width there. And I just made a package.json and what else? Git ignore. So very simple start. It will likely be very similar to what I've been building for CrowdNode UI, but a lot more simple. Theoretically a lot more simple. We'll see. But let's get some music going here, shall we? Okay, so the following tasks can be completed concurrently and almost 100% independently from the backend tasks that are currently in progress. These are browser tasks that are made with modularity in mind. The SDK described below will be a data-driven one where we feed a JSON configuration to drive the integration. The big picture. We need a small browser-based library that can take advantage of Dash core lib. If you feel -tx.js is a better option or you're more comfortable with it, that's fine too. As I was discussing this with Will, it sounds like he knows it'll work with Dash core lib, but not necessarily with -tx. So I'm likely going to start with Dash core lib, and if I can figure out a way to use -tx, like if it doesn't seem that complicated, I might. So that would be less overhead. But all right, so browser side functionality. The goal of -join.js is to allow the user the ability to have their wallet info in the browser and not on a server anymore. This means that a private key or WIF cannot be transmitted to the server portion. Instead, the browser portion will create and sign data, then submit that payload to the server. This gives us the benefit of allowing the server to handle sensitive P2 or PII. I don't know what that is. Sensitive PII, let's say for now, in a way that is cryptographically secure, since the server has no idea how to sign your transactions without your private key. It is this proxy methodology that opens up CoinJoin to potentially many different use cases and platforms. Imagine running CoinJoin purely through a couple of curl commands. That's not part of the scope, but since we're using HTTPS as a bridge, the possibility is there. All right, terminology. I say object, but really it can be a class or an object with methods and properties. Any way you choose, just do what feels right and allows for flexibility. Make sure to modularize your code. If you've seen Cool AJ86's code where he does something like this, that would be a perfect pattern to use for all components described in this document. So create a wallet object, ability to load a private key as a RIF or any format that -corelib uses. Can create collateral transactions. This is partially done. Ask Will for more details. Example code is in source demo data. Search for make collateral transaction. Can sign serialized transactions. Must be able to take the output and feed it to the RPC. Send raw transaction or decode raw transaction. Not send raw. Send raw. Send raw. So send raw and decode raw transaction. Look at make collateral transaction and look for anywhere where. Look for anywhere it says unchecked serialize or serialize. The former will serialize it even if there are errors, while the latter will throw exceptions. Alright. Create a configuration object. We will need the library to communicate with an origin server. The origin server and other configuration options need to be configured. Create a configuration object which can be fed to the wallet object and the server object. Create a config loader that will accept a JSON file. The JSON schema doesn't have to be exact, but it should accept the following things. This will be a fully qualified domain name. This is the backend that you will be communicating with. Depending on where we're at with the code base, this should be one of alpha, beta, v1, or vn, where n is a future version. Alright. API.userAgent, have this pull from package.json. I believe CoolAJ86 has some cool techniques to make a nifty looking and informative user agent string just for logging and auditing purposes mostly. Network, this should be one of the following: testnet, regtest, devnet, mainnet, or livenet. Make sure it can accept one or the other. Alright, coin join rounds, integer how many rounds the user would like. Denomination, see the dashboard docs, but this has to be one of the standard denominations in Satoshis. Transaction pool, this should be an array of signed transaction inputs and outputs. This can be blank for now until we flesh out the rest of the API. Alright, create a server object. The wallet and configuration will need to have access to a server library that can understand how to communicate with a backend server. The server object needs to communicate over HTTPS. Bonus if you can get WebSockets working too. That would be awesome. Create a server object that creates URLs based on configuration properties like origin, server, network, and API version. URLs will follow a pattern API version section object identifier query param. Example /a post /API /alpha /matchmaking /session. All post put must have a JSON content type. All URLs will respond with JSON, so make a JSON decoding method. Some libraries will allow you to set the base URL, and all you have to pass in is the URI. Make that happen. Set the base URL to origin server and replace version with API version. Pass in a CoinJoin user agent header. Value is API user agent. Each client will need a custom header to send, but only after you've hit the auth create route described below. The header key should be X CoinJoin session ID. This will be a unique UUID string that is created once you authenticate. Don't worry, there's no user password login. The first route to hit before any other URL is the auth route. So version auth create. Pass in the entire CoinJoin config object here. DSI TBD. So the DSI is to be determined? Or is that an actual option? I'm guessing to be determined. Alright, the server will respond with a 200 and a response object. Status. String, status code, session ID, error code. Take the session ID and use it to populate X CoinJoin session ID header. You are now ready to matchmake with other participants. Post API version matchmaking session. Must have CoinJoin session ID header. And okay, I kind of skipped over. So status code, session ID, error code. Then inputs, collateral, and outputs. Alright, this portion of the server SDK is a work in progress. Each key value pair is TBD. It's possible to get an updated status. Session ID is the same value as what you place in CoinJoin. This is the only route where you have to pass session ID in the URL. If X CoinJoin session ID is present in the headers, it will be ignored and session ID will be honored instead. Okay. So if you provide a parameter, or I guess that's part of the path with the session ID, it will use that over a HTTP header. This route should respond with something like stage, status code, error code. It is safe and most likely preferable to display the status to the user, but always sanitize. Never trust even integral inputs. Parse them using parseInt. Stage is an integer that corresponds to the numbers 0 through 11. In the link provided there, canceling a session that's in progress is theoretically possible, but it will cause the master node to charge you a fee. That's what the collateral inputs are for. That part of the SDK is TBD. Continually check the matchmaking session ID root. Start a WebSocket that connects to the origin server. Make sure it upgrades fully to the most secure proto. Polyfill for the WebSocket API would be to continuously pull the matchmaking session ID. A rate limiting middleware will be built into the Express server. Be prepared to handle rate limit hit. Rate limit hit HTTP status 429 too many requests. Might change, but anything over 120 requests per minute will be rate limited. Rate limit punishment will be no request can go through until 10 seconds after the rate limit was hit. Okay. Well. Alright, let's take a look at the code. So the authenticate with the master node is done. Transaction encoding in progress. It's possible to run node network authentication to see how the code connects to the master node of choice. Be sure to fill out your config.json with the correct info. How version numbers work: each number separated by a dot starting from left to right. If 0, there has been no official release. Oh, okay. I don't need to read that. What's in dev blog? Oh, cool. That's nice. We'll stun that. So, major progress thanks to -lib, a solid library that has proven to be extremely easy to use. What we know so far: any number of connections can come from a single host. We will need to test this on testnet and mainnet. But as far as I can tell, a host can initiate several sessions from the same IP address. This means that a single host could potentially represent several CoinJoin clients at once, each with their own socket representing their connection. The DSI message is where we're currently at. The flow goes: connect to master node, complete version /verac VRAC. VRAC? I don't know. Version VRAC? I don't know. Something like that. Let's say VRAC. So version and VRAC handshake notified the master node via send DSQ. This lets the master node know we want to send CoinJoin traffic. Submit a DSA message. Wait for DSQ message. Submit DSI. I've created a script at utils denominate which will handle a lot of the hassles of sending denominations to many different wallets. In order to use this script, you will need to have set up your bin.d scripts, i.e. bin.df. Those scripts actually should be in the utils directory. I'll commit them after this devlog is pushed if they don't. So current challenge is the DSI message requires the client to send equal numbers of inputs and outputs along with collateral transactions. I've seen situations where the master node will charge the client for submitting incorrect or malformed data. I will create a document that details exactly where and how those situations can arise and what we can do about it. Possible concurrent work. At this point in time, it's possible to write some of the code that will be present in the browser and on the server. The following things can be worked on: importing a WIF, creating and transmitting a collateral transaction. Just take the code from source demo data. It would essentially need to send an unchecked serialized transaction to a predefined relative URL. URL can be hard-coded for now. Contacting a RESTful API endpoint to begin matchmaking. Payload should include output of unchecked serialized. Response will be a QID. So matchmaking session QID is the response from their response will be something like QID status pending connection, connected, wait for Q, join, mixing, cleanup, error X. Alright, where Q is a randomly generated QID, where NNNNN is an integral status code that corresponds to status, where status is one of many strings, where error is a string representing an error. It will likely be a sentence or phrase. Where error code is an integral error code corresponding to the error. Error and error code will only appear if status and status code indicate an error condition. Rate limiting middleware. The calling code must be mindful of rate limiting middleware that will be active once the SDK is fully developed. Users should expect a JSON payload described below. Should the client make too many requests, if a client is rate limited, the API endpoint will respond with an HTTP status code 200, but with a JSON payload of error rate limited. Error code -1. Okay. Alright, so these are the utils he mentioned. I think he said DF was one. So DF is an alias to -CLI, home foobar -mate, local seed core. Okay, so most of these are looking like they're kind of alias functions that are just redirecting to other things. All right. What's this?
Se pudesse organizava a estrela. Se a casa está vazia um dia, também vou ficar e te ver crescer. Me faz tão feliz saber que você.
All right, let's work a little bit backwards. Let's actually jump up to the package.json. What do we got here? So node source demo, that was the right script to kind of look at first. Hello. Thanks for joining in. Feel free to ask any questions. Or, just introduce yourself. Say hi. All right. Let's bounce back here. So I was under the impression the last time I talked to Will that he had already built a browser SDK. But now I'm thinking maybe he didn't, and that's what he's wanting me to do, so I'll need to check in with him. review some of what he messaged me though. Okay, whoops, didn't mean to go back there. Let's come back here and poke around a little more. So bootstrap. There's the browser.js. So this is kind of why I'm not sure if there's a browser SDK. Is mainly because there's a shell script line at the top. Is it a what's it called? Is it the hashbang? I don't know. I think that normally implies hashbang, but I don't know if that's the same. Shebang. That's what I'm looking for. It's the shebang. So the fact that this file has a shebang makes me think it's not the browser SDK. At the very least, I think we will need dash core lib. So let's get some stuff installed. So dash evo renamed to dash pay on GitHub, but it's looking, at least from this documentation, like it's still dash evo. That's what I was trying to check for. So I will use that. Let's run that, which should update this file with a dependency. There we go. All right. And what version was Will using? All right, so he's 2 patch versions behind. I think I'm gonna try, let's see if this will work. Is dash join something that exists already? Maybe I should check that. Interesting. Lightweight Angular JSON schema. Ha! So there is an organization named Dash Join. And they have a few packages. Interesting. All right, I'm not too concerned about that after all, so I'm going to say dash join is equal to what is it? It's something like this, I think. This might work. Let's try it. It did not work. Let's just try that straight up. That may have worked. Whoa. It's a lot of stuff. All right, there's dash join. Okay, did install this stuff. It doesn't look like there's an npm package for that yet. So I think I'll need to install it that way for now. All right, so source, let's see. It's browser.js. It does say browser library, but the shebang throws me off. Shebangs aren't needed in the browser. And I don't think there's example code of how to use it yet, just examples of the messages it should receive. Okay, so there is a browser lib here. Is there module? So there's a module exports, and it exports the session. Wait. I don't think that would work. Yeah, I'm not sure this would work as it currently stands. Assuming this session was supposed to point to this session in browser lib, I think you would need something else there. So module exports is equal to lib. So this module exports would override this module exports. I'm a little bit confused by this stuff. I think it would be better to have the home foobar, whatever, a environment variable or a config variable. So that then it's not expecting to be in your home directory. Like if you were to clone this repository and run it, it would either be local to the directory you're running it in, or if it was trying to reference files that would be in your home directory, like I believe -core and probably -core lib will by default store some data about your wallets and whatnot in your home directory, you know, like home /.dash/database dot whatever. So I think it'll do things like that, which you might need to reference in this, but some of this might need to be cleaned up. My guess is browser.js was copied or duplicated from a different file, because it did look similar to demo.js, which also has the shebang. So I'm wondering if it didn't get cleaned up all the way. But it also has some things that I'm thinking won't work, so it probably needs some fixes there. I'm wondering if all of this is up to date. It doesn't look like there's an examples folder, but maybe one of these tests clarify. I was hoping there was an examples, but I might need to have Will update things with some more examples. I mean, I suppose I could build the browser SDK if that was the intention, but I don't want to do that if he was actually planning to do that. Rather not invest time where he's already investing time. Well, what's in Bootstrap? Take re-up script, import it here. Must be able to use instances.
It's quiet. Too quiet. I'll check it out.
All right, sorry, pinging different people in chat here to find out direction. It seems like this might not be at the point I thought it was, so I'm gonna connect with Will whenever he's available and get it figured out what's going on. Maybe he can either provide more examples, or if he was thinking I'll build the browser SDK, that's fine, but I just thought I was building a UI and connecting to an existing browser SDK, which this is not looking like it's quite there yet. If for no other reason than the shebang at the top makes me think it's a shell script or a server-side script, not a browser library. All right, so I'm gonna end the stream. I'll probably take a little break here and then start another stream in, I don't know, a few minutes. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and consider liking, subscribing, following, sharing, all that good stuff. So thanks again, and I'll catch y'all later.